She didn't just fall for her college professor. She uncovered a secret that could ruin her future, destroy his power, and shatter the one friendship she couldn't afford to lose. One moment she was standing in his silent mansion, realizing the doors had locked behind her. The next, she was frozen on a staircase, listening to screams she was never meant to hear. Sometimes the most dangerous affairs don't begin in desire, but in the moment you learn the truth and can't walk away. Please like, share, and subscribe before we begin. Isabella had been 15 minutes early. That was her problem. Always punctual, always prepared, always the responsible one in the group. Michelle texted that she was running late, stuck in traffic with Marco and Francesca. They'd be another 30 minutes at least. "Come in," Professor Russo said, stepping aside. His voice was smooth, accented, unhurried. No sense standing in the cold. She hesitated. The autumn wind cut through her jacket, but something about crossing that threshold felt permanent. "I'll wait in the car," she managed. He tilted his head slightly. "The gate locked behind you. Automatic system. You'd need the code to leave." Her stomach flipped. Of course it did, because nothing about tonight was going normal. She stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her, softer than her heartbeat, louder than any scream. The house was enormous, not showy, just quietly, devastatingly expensive. Dark wood, cream walls, art that probably cost more than her entire college tuition. She followed him through the hallway, keeping distance between them like it might protect her from whatever this feeling was. "You're American," he said without looking back. "Yes, sir." "Law student. 3rd year." "Yes." "Michelle speaks highly of you." Isabella didn't respond. She was too busy trying not to stare at the way he moved. Controlled, economical, like every gesture had been calculated 3 steps ahead. He led her into a study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that could seat 8, windows overlooking gardens she couldn't quite see in the darkness. "You can set up here," he said. "I'll bring coffee." "That's not necessary." But he was already gone. She stood alone in the study, pulse hammering. This was Michelle's father, her professor, a 60-year-old man who should not be making her feel like the air had turned to honey. She pulled out her laptop, tried to focus. Their group project was on international criminal law, ironic, considering how illegal her thoughts were becoming. Footsteps in the hallway, not his, heavier, urgent. Isabella looked up. Then she heard it, a muffled thump, a groan, the wet sound of something hitting flesh. Her breath stopped. Another sound, dragging. Something heavy being moved. Every instinct screamed at her to stay put. But Isabella Torres had never been good at listening to instincts. She was good at finding truth, at asking questions no one else would ask. She moved toward the door. The hallway stretched long and shadowed. The sounds came from upstairs. She should go back. She should sit down and pretend she heard nothing. Instead, she climbed. The stairs curved elegantly, each step silent under her sneakers. At the top, a corridor branched in 3 directions. Light spilled from beneath a door at the end, the only door that wasn't perfectly closed. Her hand shook as she reached for the handle. She pushed it open. The man in the chair was tied so tightly his hands had turned purple. Blood dripped from his mouth, his nose, a gash above his eye. His head lolled forward, unconscious or worse. 2 men stood over him, one holding pliers, the other a knife that caught the light like a promise. Isabella's scream tore out of her before she could stop it. All 3 men turned. The one with the knife moved first, stepping toward her. Then Professor Russo was there, blocking the doorway, his hand iron around her wrist. "Out," he said quietly. Not to her, to them. The men hesitated. Now. They moved like shadows, disappearing through a side door she hadn't noticed, taking the man in the chair with them. Within seconds, the room was empty except for the faint smell of copper and fear. Isabella yanked her arm free, stumbling backward. What was that? Domenico's face was perfectly calm. Too calm. Like he'd just been interrupted during a business call, not while torturing a man. You shouldn't have come up here. There was a man. He was bleeding. You saw nothing. I saw everything. His jaw tightened. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Something colder. Go downstairs, Isabella. Forget what you think you saw. Think? She laughed, high and sharp. I know what I saw. I'm calling the police. She turned and ran. By the time she reached the foyer, her phone was already out. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. The front door wouldn't open. She tried the handle again. Locked. The keypad beside it blinked red. Isabella. She spun around. He stood at the base of the stairs, hands in his pockets, watching her like she was a problem he was solving in real time. Let me out. Not until you listen. Let me out. He moved forward, not threatening, just inevitable. If you call the police, you'll regret it. Is that a threat? A fact. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough that she could smell that cologne again, cedar and smoke and something she had no name for. There was no man, no blood. You walked into an empty room and let your imagination run. You're insane. Am I? Car headlights swept across the windows, voices outside. Michelle's laugh, Marco's complaint about traffic. Domenico held her gaze for 1 more second. Then he stepped past her and opened the door. Michelle burst in, all energy and apologies. Bella, I'm so sorry we're late. Papa, you didn't let her just stand here, waiting, did you? Of course not, Domenico said smoothly. We were having coffee, discussing her thesis. Isabella stared at him. His face betrayed nothing. Michelle hugged her. You look pale. Are you okay? She glanced at Domenico. He raised one eyebrow, almost imperceptible. A challenge. I'm fine. Good. Come on. Marco and Francesca are setting up in the dining room. Papa, thank you so much for letting us use the house. Anything for you, Tesoro? He kissed his daughter's forehead with such gentleness that Isabella's mind fractured. This man. This careful, loving father. And the man upstairs with blood on his hands. They couldn't be the same person. But they were. The group worked for 3 hours. Isabella contributed nothing. She sat at the massive dining table, laptop open, eyes on the screen, mind replaying everything. The man in the chair, the blood. The way Domenico had looked at her, like he was deciding whether she was a problem that needed to disappear. Michelle kept asking if she was okay. Marco made jokes. Francesca complained about their other professor's grading system. Normal. Everything was so horrifyingly normal. Domenico appeared once, bringing espresso in delicate cups, playing the perfect host. When he set Isabella's cup down, his fingers brushed hers. She flinched. His eyes met hers. For half a heartbeat, she saw something there. Not regret. Not apology. Warning. At midnight, Michelle's boyfriend texted. Emergency at his family's restaurant. She had to go. I'm so sorry, Michelle said, gathering her things. We'll finish tomorrow. Bella, do you need a ride? I drove, Isabella lied. She'd taken the bus, but she'd walked 10 miles before she stayed in this house another minute. You sure? Positive. Marco and Francesca left together. Then it was just Isabella, Michelle, and the professor. I'll walk you to your car, Domenico said. That's really not. I insist. Michelle kissed her father's cheek and left. The sound of her car engine faded down the driveway. Silence. You lied to your friend, Domenico said quietly. Isabella shoved her laptop into her bag. I'm leaving. How? You don't have a car. I'll call a taxi. At midnight? In this neighborhood? He shook his head. I'll drive you. I'd rather walk through fire. Dramatic. Murderer. The word hung between them. Domenico's expression didn't change. That man you saw was a rapist. He hurt 3 women in the past year. The police couldn't touch him because his family has connections, so I made sure he'd never hurt anyone again. Isabella's breath caught. That doesn't give you the right, doesn't it? He stepped closer. What would you have done? Written a strongly worded brief? Filed a motion? Waited for a system that protects men like him while women suffer? You don't get to play judge and executioner. Someone has to. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. This time, he didn't stop her. But when she reached for the handle, he spoke again. You study law because you believe in justice. So do I. We just have different methods. She turned. You're a criminal. And you're naive. No heat in his voice, just fact. But you're also smart. Smart enough to know that if you go to the police, they'll find nothing. No evidence, no witnesses, just your word against mine. And my word carries weight in this city. Because you're a monster. Because I'm necessary. He moved past her and opened the door himself. My driver will take you home. His name is Angelo. He's worked for my family for 30 years. You're safe with him. I'm not safe anywhere near you. Something flickered across his face, there and gone. No, he agreed softly. You're probably not. The car ride was silent. Angelo was exactly what Domenico had promised. Professional, courteous, unthreatening. He dropped her at her apartment building without a word. Isabella climbed the stairs to her 3rd-floor walk-up, hands still shaking. Inside, she locked the door, checked the locks twice, then collapsed on her bed. She should call the police. She should tell Michelle. She should do something, anything, except lie here, feeling like her entire worldview had shattered. But when she closed her eyes, all she saw was Domenico's face. The gentleness when he kissed his daughter. The coldness when he threatened her. The something else. That flicker of heat when their fingers touched. She hated him. She was terrified of him. And some small, traitorous part of her wanted to understand him. The next morning, Isabella called in sick to her part-time job at the campus bookstore. She spent 4 hours researching Domenico Russo. What she found was terrifying. On paper, he was spotless. Tenured professor of criminology, published author, guest lecturer at conferences across Europe, philanthropist who donated millions to women's shelters and legal aid organizations. The man was a saint. But saints didn't torture people in their homes. She dug deeper. Found old newspaper articles. An investigation into organized crime families in Italy. The Russo name appeared 3 times before the journalist died in a car accident. Another reporter who'd been investigating corruption in the university system. She'd written one article mentioning Domenico's unusual influence over disciplinary proceedings. 2 weeks later, she'd retracted everything and moved to Spain. Patterns. Isabella knew patterns. She'd built her entire legal education on recognizing them. Domenico Russo wasn't just connected to organized crime. He was one of its pillars. That afternoon, Michelle called. Hey, can we talk? Isabella's stomach dropped. Sure. They met at a cafe near campus. Michelle looked upset. Her usual brightness dimmed. What's wrong? Isabella asked. Did something happen at my father's house? You've been weird since yesterday. I told you I'm fine. Bella. Michelle leaned forward. We've been friends for 2 years. I know when you're lying. Isabella's coffee tasted like ash. She set it down carefully. I saw something. Upstairs. What? A man, tied to a chair, bleeding. And your father. Michelle's face went pale, then red, then cold. Stop. Michelle, I said stop! Her voice cracked. How dare you? How dare you accuse my father of something like that? I'm not accusing. I'm telling you what I saw. You saw nothing. You walked into the wrong room, probably saw something out of context, and now you're making up stories. Michelle stood, chair scraping loud. My father is the kindest man I know. He wouldn't hurt anyone, ever. Please, just listen. No. You listen. Tears welled in Michelle's eyes. He raised me alone after my mother died. He's been there for every moment of my life. And you spend 5 minutes in his house and decide he's some kind of monster? I know what I saw. Then you're delusional. Michelle left. Isabella sat alone, surrounded by the noise of the cafe, feeling more isolated than she'd ever felt. She'd lost her friend. And for what? To tell a truth no one would believe? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but her hand moved on its own. Hello? Isabella. Domenico's voice, smooth as ever. I heard you spoke with Michelle. Her blood turned to ice. How? She's my daughter. She tells me everything. You knew she'd react like that. You wanted me to tell her. I wanted you to understand that some truths are too heavy to share, that sometimes silence is kinder. You're manipulating her. I'm protecting her. A pause. From reality. From ugliness. From men who would use her to hurt me, just like I'll protect you. I don't need your protection. You will. He hung up. That night, Isabella couldn't sleep. Every creak in her apartment sounded like footsteps. Every shadow looked like a threat. She got up, checked the locks again, made tea she didn't drink, stared at her reflection in the darkened window. What was she supposed to do? Going to the police would accomplish nothing. Domenico was right about that. No evidence, no witnesses, just her word against a respected professor. But doing nothing felt like complicity. She thought about the man in the chair, what he'd done, the women he'd hurt. Then she thought about Domenico's hands, how gentle they'd been when he touched his daughter, how controlled when he'd grabbed her wrist, justice and vengeance, right and wrong. The lines were blurring. 3 days passed. Isabella avoided campus, avoided Michelle, avoided everything that might force her to make a decision. On the 4th day, her law professor assigned a new case study, criminal networks and legal accountability. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was reading the case file when someone knocked on her apartment door. Her heart stopped. She looked through the peephole. Domenico stood in the hallway, hands in his coat pockets, looking like he belonged anywhere he chose to stand. Isabella didn't open the door. I know you're there, he said calmly. I can hear you breathing. Go away. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Then just listen. His voice softened. Please. That word, please, from him. It felt wrong, too human, too vulnerable. Against every screaming instinct, she unlocked the door. He didn't push his way in. He waited until she stepped aside, then entered like he'd been invited to tea. Her apartment was tiny compared to his house. One room serving as bedroom, living room, and study. A kitchen the size of a closet. But it was hers, and having him in it felt like an invasion. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. If someone sees, no one will. He stood in the center of the room, looking around, not judging, just observing. When his eyes landed on her makeshift desk, laptop, case files, half-drunk coffee cups, something shifted in his expression. You work hard, he said. I have to. Some of us don't have family money. Is that what you think? That everything I have was given to me? I think you took it. One way or another. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Fair enough. Silence stretched between them. Isabella's back pressed against the kitchen counter, as far from him as the small space allowed. "Why are you here?" she finally asked. "To apologize." She laughed. Couldn't help it. "For which part? The torture? The threats? Turning your daughter against me?" "All of it." He moved closer, not crowding, just closing distance. "What you saw was unfortunate. I never intended for you to be involved in that part of my life." "What part? The criminal part? The necessary part?" "Stop saying that. Stop acting like you're some kind of hero." "I'm not a hero." His voice dropped. "I'm the man who does what heroes can't, what they won't. I live in shadows, so people like you can walk in sunlight. That's just another excuse. Maybe." He stopped 3 feet away. "But it's also true." Isabella's hands gripped the counter behind her. "What you want from me?" "I want you to stop looking at me like I'm a monster." She faltered, because that wasn't quite how she looked at him anymore. Monster was too simple, too clean. He was something far more complicated. "I want you to understand," he continued, "that everything I do for a reason. The man you saw, he destroyed lives. He would have destroyed more. The system failed, so I didn't. You could have killed him. I could have. I didn't. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you think?" He was so close now she could see the silver threading through his dark hair, the faint lines around his eyes, the way his jaw tensed when he was choosing his words carefully. 60. He was 60. She was 23. And her heart was pounding so hard she thought he must hear it. "I need you to stay away from me," she whispered. "I will, if that's truly what you want." "It is. Then why are your hands shaking?" She looked down. He was right. Her hands trembled against the counter. "Because I'm scared. Of me. Of—" She swallowed. "Yes. Of you." He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer, like it hurt him anyway. "I would never harm you, Isabella. That's the one thing I need you to believe. How can I believe anything you say?" "You can't." He stepped back, putting distance between them again. "Trust has to be earned. I understand that. So I'll earn it. I don't want— I know what you want." His eyes locked on hers. "You want to pretend this never happened. To go back to your life where things make sense, where men are good or evil, and the world operates on rules you learned in a classroom. Yes, I can't give you that. But I can give you truth when you're ready for it. And safety. Always." He moved toward the door. "Lock this behind me. The deadbolt is broken. I'll have someone fix it tomorrow. Don't— It's not a request. This neighborhood isn't safe." Then he was gone. Isabella stood frozen for a full minute. Then she rushed to the door, checked the deadbolt. Broken. She'd been living here for 8 months and never noticed. How had he known? The answer came immediately, cold and certain. Because he'd been watching. Probably since the moment she walked into his house. Maybe longer. She should be terrified. She was. But underneath the terror was something else. Something that felt dangerously close to fascination. The next morning, there was a knock on her door. Isabella opened it to find a locksmith with a work order already filled out. "Deadbolt replacement," the man said cheerfully. "Prepaid." She didn't argue. 30 minutes later, her door had a new lock. Top of the line, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent. There was no note, no message, just the lock and the unspoken understanding that Domenico Russo kept his promises, even the ones she didn't want him to keep. That afternoon, Isabella went to class for the first time in a week. Criminal procedure, taught by Professor Domenico Russo. She'd almost forgotten he was technically her teacher. When she walked into the lecture hall, he was already there, writing on the board. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her. She took her usual seat, middle row, left side. Far enough back to avoid attention, close enough to hear clearly. Michelle wasn't there. She'd probably switched sections. The class filled. Domenico turned to face them. His eyes found Isabella immediately, held for half a second, then moved on. "Today," he said, voice carrying effortlessly, "we discuss the line between justice and vengeance, where it exists, if it exists, and what happens when those who enforce the law decide the law itself is insufficient." Someone in the back, Yuck, raised their hand. "Isn't that just vigilantism?" "Is it?" Domenico leaned against his desk. "Consider a case. A man is credibly accused of sexual assault. Multiple victims. Clear evidence. But legal technicalities prevent prosecution. What should happen?" "The system should be fixed," a student offered. "Agreed. But while we're fixing the system, a process that could take years, this man is free. Free to hurt others. What then?" Silence. "Someone answer," Domenico said softly. His eyes found Isabella again. "What would you do?" She knew he was talking to her. Only her. Everyone waited. Isabella lifted her chin. "I'd find another way to stop him." "Legal ways?" "Yes. And if there were no legal ways, if you'd exhausted every option and the system had failed," her throat tightened, "then the system has failed. But that doesn't give me the right to become a criminal myself." "Doesn't it?" He pushed off the desk, started walking through the aisles. "At what point does inaction become complicity? If you have the power to stop evil and choose not to, what does that make you?" "It makes me someone who respects the law. It makes you irrelevant." The word hit like a slap. Domenico stopped beside her desk, looked down at her with those impossible eyes. "The law is a beautiful ideal, Miss Torres, but ideals don't protect victims. Action does. Action without accountability is chaos, and accountability without action is cowardice." The class was silent, watching the two of them like a tennis match. Domenico smiled slightly. "Good argument. You'll make an excellent lawyer someday, as long as you remember that the world isn't a courtroom, and sometimes the only justice available is the kind you make yourself." He walked back to the front of the class. Isabella's heart hammered. He'd just described his entire philosophy, justified everything she'd seen. And part of her, that same traitorous part that had noticed his cologne, his eyes, the bobo way he moved, understood. She hated that she understood. After class, she tried to leave quickly, but students crowded the aisles, asking questions, arguing points. By the time she reached the door, Domenico was standing there. "Miss Torres, a moment." It wasn't a request. She followed him to his office, a space she'd never seen before. Books lined every wall. A window overlooked the campus courtyard. His desk was neat, organized, everything in its place. Control. Always control. He closed the door behind her. "You don't have to keep doing this," Isabella said immediately. "The lock, the class discussion, whatever game you're playing. This isn't a game. Then what is it?" He leaned against his desk, studying her. "You're angry with me. I understand. But you're also curious. You want to know how someone can teach law and break it simultaneously. I know how. You're a hypocrite. I'm a realist." He crossed his arms. "Tell me honestly, if you knew for certain that a man was guilty of a terrible crime, and you had absolute proof he'd never face legal consequences, would you do nothing?" "Yes. You're lying. You don't know me." "I know more than you think," his voice gentled. "You volunteer at the women's shelter on 4th Street. You spend your weekends helping domestic violence survivors navigate the legal system. You've seen how often it fails them." Her blood chilled. "How do you?" "Because I pay attention to people who matter." "I don't matter to you." don't you?" The question hung there, impossible and dangerous. Isabella forced herself to move toward the door. "I need to go." "Wait." He didn't touch her, didn't move, just spoke her name like it was something precious. "Isabella, please." That word again, from a man who probably never said it. She stopped. "I'm not asking you to agree with me," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to see that the world isn't black and white, that sometimes good men do terrible things for the right reasons, and sometimes terrible men do good things for the wrong reasons. How do I know which one you are?" "You don't. Not yet." He straightened. "But I'm going to prove it to you, whether you want me to or not." "Why do you care what I think?" For the first time, he hesitated. Something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe. Like he was asking himself the same question. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do." Isabella left his office with her mind spinning. She made it halfway across campus before she had to sit down on a bench, just to breathe. This man, this dangerous, complicated, impossible man, was paying attention to her. Not as a student, not as his daughter's friend, as something else entirely. And the worst part was how much it affected her. She should be afraid. She was afraid. But fear was mixing with something else now. Something that felt like being seen for the first time in her life. That evening, she returned to the women's shelter like she did every Tuesday. The director, Mrs. Chen, greeted her with her usual warmth. "Isabella, perfect timing. We have a new resident who needs help with a restraining order." The woman's name was Katerina, mid-30s, bruises fading to yellow on her arms, eyes haunted. Isabella spent 2 hours helping her fill out paperwork, explaining the process, promising it would get better. But she knew the truth. Restraining orders were paper shields. They worked when men chose to respect them. And men like Katerina's ex-husband didn't respect anything. When Isabella left the shelter that night, she found herself thinking about Domenico's question. What would she do if the law couldn't protect Katerina? The answer should be simple. Trust the system. Let it work. But the system was broken. She saw it every week. Women slipped through cracks that should have been closed decades ago. She hated that Domenico was right. Hated it almost as much as she hated how much she wanted to see him again. Friday afternoon, Michelle called. Isabella almost didn't answer. But they'd been friends too long to let it end like this. "Hi," Michelle said softly. "Hi. I've been thinking about what you said, about my father." Isabella's heart clenched. "Michelle, I don't want to lose you. You're one of my best friends. But I also can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't let you accuse him of things like that. I understand. Do you?" Michelle sounded so young, so hurt. "Because from where I'm standing, you're asking me to believe my father is some kind of criminal, and I just can't. He's all I have. I know. I'm sorry." Silence. Then Michelle said, "Can we just not talk about him? Can we go back to normal?" "I don't think we can. Please, Bella, just try." Isabella closed her eyes. She could do this. She could pretend. For friendship. For peace. "Okay," she whispered. "Really? Really? We won't talk about him." The relief in Michelle's voice was palpable. "Thank you. God, thank you. Coffee tomorrow." "Sure." They hung up. Isabella sat on her apartment floor, phone in her hand, and wondered how many more lies she'd have to tell. Saturday morning brought rain. Isabella met Michelle at their usual cafe, umbrella dripping, smile forced. They talked about school, about Michelle's boyfriend problems, about everything except the one topic that mattered. It felt like wearing someone else's skin. Halfway through her latte, Michelle's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, smiled. "It's Papa." 1 second. She walked outside to take the call. Isabella watched through the window. Michelle laughed at something Domenico said, twirled her hair, the kind of unconscious gesture that spoke of complete trust. How could the same man be two such different people? Michelle came back inside. Papa wants to know if you're free for dinner tomorrow. The whole group. He feels bad about last time being cut short. Every instinct screamed to refuse. Sure, Isabella heard herself say. Really? You're okay with that? It's fine. We're going back to normal, right? Michelle beamed. Right. But nothing about this was normal, and Isabella was starting to suspect it never would be again. Sunday arrived wrapped in fog that clung to the city like a secret. Isabella changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a simple sweater. Nothing that could be misinterpreted as trying to impress anyone, especially not him. The lie felt thin even to her. Marco picked her up at 6. Francesca sat in the passenger seat, complaining about her statistics exam. Normal conversation. Normal people. Isabella clung to it like a lifeline. When they pulled through the gates of Domenico's estate, her stomach twisted. The house looked different in daylight, less menacing, just beautiful and old and expensive. Ivy climbed the stone walls. Gardens stretched in precise, manicured rows. It could have been a museum, a place where terrible things definitely didn't happen. Except they did. Michelle answered the door with a hug that felt desperate. You came. Of course I came. They moved through the foyer into a dining room Isabella hadn't seen before. The table could seat 12 easily. Crystal chandeliers caught the last of the evening light. Paintings that looked Renaissance-era lined the walls. Domenico stood near the windows, talking on his phone in rapid Italian. He wore dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual, human, devastating. When he saw her, he said something quick into the phone and hung up. Isabella, I'm glad you could make it. His eyes held hers a second too long. Thank you for having us, Professor. Domenico, please. We're not in a classroom. But they were in his territory, his world, where his rules applied. Dinner was elaborate. Multiple courses prepared by someone Isabella never saw. Pasta that melted on the tongue. Wine that probably cost more than her. Rinso. Conversation flowed around her. Michelle talking about her internship. Marco debating soccer teams with Domenico. Francesca asking about his book collection. Normal. It all felt so horrifyingly normal. Isabella barely ate. Every time she reached for her wine glass, Domenico was watching. Not obviously. Just these brief moments where their eyes would meet across the table and something electric would pass between them. She hated it. She craved it. Isabella, Domenico said during a lull in conversation. Michelle tells me you're interested in international human rights law. All eyes turned to her. Yes, sir. There's a symposium next month, in Rome. Several colleagues of mine will be presenting on legal frameworks for prosecuting war crimes. You should attend. I can't afford. The university has a scholarship fund for exceptional students. I'd be happy to recommend you. Michelle clapped her hands. Bella, that's perfect. You could meet all those lawyers you're always reading about. Isabella's throat tightened. That's very generous, but what? Domenico's voice was casual, but his eyes were intense. You deserve opportunities that match your talent. Let me help provide them. It sounded so reasonable, so kind. It felt like a trap. I'll think about it, she managed. He smiled. That's all I ask. After dinner, Michelle suggested they watch a movie in the screening room. Of course there was a screening room. Marco and Francesca agreed immediately. Isabella wanted to leave, but couldn't think of an excuse that wouldn't raise questions. The screening room had actual theater seats, a screen that covered an entire wall. Francesca picked some action movie Isabella had never heard of. The lights went down. Isabella sat on the end, as far from Domenico as possible. But halfway through the film, Michelle got up to use the bathroom. Marco followed, probably for a smoke break. Francesca was engrossed in the explosions at the screen, leaving Isabella and Domenico in darkness, separated by 3 empty seats. She felt him move before she saw him, one seat closer, then another. "You're avoiding me," he said quietly. On screen, buildings were exploding. No one else could hear them. "I'm watching the movie." "You haven't looked at the screen in 20 minutes. He was right. She'd been staring at her hands. "What do you want?" she whispered. "To know why you're so determined to hate me." "You know why? Because of what you saw? Or because of what you felt when you saw it?" Her breath caught. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't you?" He leaned closer. Not touching, just present. "You're angry that I showed you a truth you didn't want to see, that the world isn't what you thought, that sometimes darkness serves light. You're twisting everything. I'm just being honest." On screen, the hero saved the day. Predictable, clean, nothing like real life. "I need you to stay away from me," Isabella said. "I will, after you answer one question." "What? Are you afraid of me? Or afraid of yourself?" Before she could answer, the lights came up. Movie over. Michelle bounced back in, full of commentary about the film's legal inaccuracies. Marco and Francesca debated the ending. Isabella stood on shaking legs. "I should go. Early class tomorrow." "I'll drive you," Domenico offered. "That's not necessary. Angelo is off tonight. And it's late." Michelle touched her arm. "Let Papa drive you, Bella. I'd worry otherwise." Trapped again. Fine. The car was exactly what she'd expected. Sleek, black, expensive. Leather seats that probably cost more than her entire education. Domenico drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. The city passed by outside, lights and shadows, and people living normal lives. "You didn't answer my question," he finally said. "I don't owe you answers." "No, but I think you want to give them anyway." Isabella's hands fisted in her lap. "You want honesty?" "Fine. I'm afraid of both. I'm terrified that you're exactly as dangerous as I think you are, and I'm terrified that part of me doesn't care." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "That's the first completely honest thing you've said to me. Does it make you happy, knowing you've got me this twisted up?" "No." His voice was rough. "It makes me feel like I've already failed you." "Failed me how?" "By wanting you when I have no right to." The words hung in the air like a confession. Isabella's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "You're 60 years old. I know. I'm your student, your daughter's friend. I know that too. This is wrong on every level." Yes, he glanced at her, just for a second. But it's also true. He pulled up outside her building. The street was quiet. No witnesses to whatever this was. Isabella reached for the door handle. "Wait," Domenico said. She froze. He turned in his seat to face her fully. In the dim light from the street lamp, his face was half shadow. "I won't pursue this. Whatever this is, I won't put you in that position." "Good. But I need you to know. If circumstances were different, if you weren't who you are, if I was a different man, I would." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know you're not alone in feeling it. Whatever it is." Isabella's throat burned. "I should hate you. You should. I saw what you did. I know. You're everything I'm supposed to stand against. I know that too." He leaned back, putting distance between them again. "Go inside, Isabella. Lock your door. Forget this conversation happened." She should. She absolutely should. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What happened to him? The man in the chair?" Domenico's jaw tightened. He's alive, recovering in a private facility. He'll never hurt anyone again, but he'll live. And that's justice to you? That's mercy. Justice would have been letting him die. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she got out of the car. Isabella didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. His words, his eyes. The way he'd said, wanting you like it cost him something. She should report him, for academic misconduct if nothing else. A professor admitting attraction to a student, that alone was grounds for dismissal. But she wouldn't, because he was right. She wasn't alone in feeling it, and that terrified her more than anything she'd seen in his house. Monday morning, Isabella arrived at criminal procedure 10 minutes early. She took a seat in the back row this time. Distance, safety. Domenico walked in exactly on time. His eyes found her immediately, registered the change in seating, then moved on without comment. He taught brilliantly. He always did. Making complex legal theory accessible, challenging them to think beyond textbook answers. Isabella took notes mechanically, not hearing most of it. When class ended, she was the first one out the door. She made it halfway across campus before she heard footsteps behind her. Running away, she spun. Domenico stood there, hands in his pockets, looking infuriatingly calm. "I'm going to class." "You don't have another class for 2 hours." "How do you know my schedule?" "I pay attention." He closed the distance between them. "You changed seats. I needed a better view of the board." "You needed distance from me." "Yes," she admitted. "I did." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll try to make this easier." "How?" "I'm taking a sabbatical. Starting next week, Professor Martinez will take over my courses for the rest of the semester." Isabella's stomach dropped. "You're leaving?" "It's already arranged. I have research to complete in Sicily. I'll be gone 3 months, possibly 4. "Because of me?" "Because it's the right thing to do." His eyes held hers. "You deserve to finish your education without this complication. And I need—" He stopped. "I need distance too." Something in her chest cracked, which was insane. She should be relieved. This was what she wanted, wasn't it? "When do you leave?" she asked. "Saturday." 5 days. Michelle must be upset. She'll join me for a few weeks during her break. She doesn't know the real reason I'm going. "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that I need to finish my book." He smiled without humor. "Just not the whole truth." They stood there in the middle of campus, students flowing around them like water around stones. "I should go," Isabella said. "Yes." But neither of them moved. "Will you—" She stopped. "Never mind." "Will I what?" "Will you be safe? In Sicily?" Something shifted in his expression. Surprise. Then something warmer. "Are you worried about me, Isabella?" "I'm worried you'll do something terrible, and I'll have to live with knowing I could have stopped you." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." He smiled. A real smile this time. "Fair enough. Yes, I'll be safe. Sicily is home. I'm more dangerous there than anywhere else." That should frighten her. Instead, it made her feel something dangerously close to relief. "Goodbye, Professor." "Domenico," he corrected softly. "When we're not in a classroom, I'm just Domenico." "Goodbye, Domenico." She walked away before she could do something stupid, like ask him to stay, or tell him she'd miss him, because she wouldn't. She absolutely wouldn't. The week passed in a blur. Professor Martinez took over classes without explanation. Michelle was distracted, sad about her father leaving. Marco and Francesca complained about the teaching change. Isabella threw herself into studying. Midterms were approaching. She had a moot court competition to prepare for. Real life. Normal things. But every night she lay awake thinking about Saturday, about Domenico getting on a plane and disappearing for months, about how much she hated that it mattered. Friday evening, Michelle called. "Last-minute dinner with Papa before he leaves. You have to come. Please." "I don't think." "Bella, please. You and me and him. Just family." Family. The word twisted something in Isabella's chest. "Okay. What time?" 7. I'll pick you up." This time, dinner was in the kitchen. Smaller. More intimate. Domenico cooked, which surprised Isabella until she remembered this man probably had 1,000 skills she didn't know about. He made risotto from scratch, moved around the kitchen with the same controlled precision he brought to everything else. Michelle chatted about her internship, about her boyfriend's family drama. Normal daughter conversation. Domenico listened with complete attention, asking questions, giving advice that was thoughtful and kind. This version of him, the father, should have made Isabella relax. Instead, it made everything more complicated. Because monsters were easy to hate. But men who loved their daughters with this kind of gentle devotion. Men who cooked for them and listened and remembered small details. Those men were dangerous in entirely different ways. After dinner, Michelle's boyfriend called with some emergency. She took it in another room, voice rising in what sounded like an argument, leaving Isabella and Domenico alone in the kitchen. He was washing dishes. Actually washing dishes by hand, sleeves rolled up, movements economical. "You don't have a dishwasher?" Isabella asked. "I do, but I like doing this. It's meditative." She picked up a towel, started drying without thinking about it. They worked in silence for a few minutes. "You're good with her," Isabella said finally. "Michelle, you're a good father." "I try. It's more than trying. She loves you completely." "I know. It terrifies me." Isabella glanced at him. "Why?" "Because love makes you vulnerable. It gives the world weapons to use against you." He handed her a plate. "That's why I do what I do. To make sure those weapons are never used." "By becoming someone even more dangerous than the threats?" "Exactly. That's a lonely way to live." He looked at her then, really looked. "Yes, it is." The moment stretched. Water dripped from his hands. The kitchen smelled like garlic and wine and something else. That cologne she'd memorized without meaning to. "I'll miss you," Isabella said, then immediately wanted to take it back. "I mean, Michelle will miss you, obviously." "Obviously," his mouth quirked. "And you? Will you miss me at all?" "I shouldn't. That's not what I asked." "Yes," she whispered. "I will." He set down the dish he was holding, dried his hands slowly. "Isabella, please don't say whatever you're about to say." "Why not?" "Because you're leaving tomorrow. Because this is already impossible. Because—" Her voice cracked. "Because I can't." He reached out. He stopped just short of touching her face. His hand hung in the air between them. "I'm trying to do the right thing here. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "From me." "What if I don't want to be protected?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Domenico's eyes darkened. His hand dropped. "You don't mean that." "How do you know what I mean?" "Because you're young and confused, and I've disrupted your entire worldview. You think what you feel is real, but it's just what? Trauma bonding? Stockholm Syndrome?" She laughed bitterly. "I'm a law student, Domenico. I know all the terms for what this isn't supposed to be. But I also know what I feel. And what do you feel?" "Terrified, angry, fascinated." She swallowed. "Drawn to you in ways that make no sense." "That's not love. That's—" "I didn't say love." He went still. "What did you say?" "I said I'm drawn to you. I said this terrifies me. I said I'll miss you." She stepped closer, reckless now. "I didn't say I love you. I'm not that far gone." Not yet, he said quietly. Arrogant. Accurate. Michelle's voice called from the other room. Bella? You ready to go? The spell broke. Isabella stepped back, grabbed her purse. Goodbye, Domenico. Have a safe trip. She made it to the doorway before he spoke again. Isabella. She stopped but didn't turn. When I get back, if you still feel this way, we'll talk. Really talk. But only if you're certain. Only if you've had time to think clearly. And if I'm not certain, then I'll let you go. She nodded once and left. That night, Isabella couldn't sleep again. She pulled out her laptop, tried to study, but her mind kept wandering. 3 months, maybe 4. Time to think. Time to let this madness fade. Time to remember all the reasons this was wrong. She should be grateful. Instead, she felt like something precious was being taken away before she'd even understood what it was. Saturday morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. But she knew who it was. She answered. I'm at the airport, Domenico said. No greeting. Just that. Safe travels. Isabella, don't. Just go. Do whatever you need to do. I'll figure out what I need to do. A long pause. Then, I meant what I said. When I come back, if you're certain, we'll talk. And if I'm not, then I'll respect that. Will you really? I'll try. He exhaled. I don't want to be another man who takes from you what he has no right to. You're not taking anything. She stopped. Just go. Please. Goodbye, Isabella. The line went dead. Isabella sat in her tiny apartment, phone in hand, and let herself cry. Not for long, just long enough to acknowledge that something had changed. She'd spent 3 weeks hating Domenico Russo, 3 weeks being terrified of him. And now he was gone. And she missed him, like losing something she'd never actually had. The following Monday, Professor Martinez proved to be competent but uninspiring. Michelle moped through lunch. Life returned to its normal rhythm. Isabella dove into her studies with renewed focus. Moot court. Research papers. Volunteer work at the shelter. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. She stopped checking her phone for messages that never came. Stopped thinking about Sicily and whatever Domenico was doing there. Mostly. On a Tuesday night, 4 weeks after Domenico left, Isabella was at the women's shelter when Caterina came in crying. Her ex-husband had shown up at her work, violated the restraining order. The police had been called. He'd been arrested and released 6 hours later on bail. He'll come back, Caterina sobbed. He always comes back, and next time, he'll kill me. Isabella held her, made soothing sounds, promised the system would protect her. But she didn't believe it. That night, she broke her own rule. She searched for Domenico's number in her call history. Her finger hovered over it for 5 full minutes. Then she put the phone down. The next day, Caterina didn't show up for her shift at the hospital where she worked. Isabella called. No answer. She went to Caterina's apartment. No one home. Fear clawed at her throat. She called the police, filed a missing person report. They promised to investigate. 2 days later, Caterina was found in a hotel room outside the city. Beaten so badly she was unrecognizable. Alive, but barely. Her ex-husband had an alibi. Witnesses who swore he'd been with them all night. He walked free. Isabella sat in the hospital waiting room staring at her hands. The system had failed. Again. Caterina would live, but she'd never be the same. And her abuser would eventually do this to someone else, unless someone stopped him. The thought came unbidden, unwelcome, but it came. Isabella pulled out her phone, found the number, stared at it for a long time. Then she typed a message. I need to talk to you. It's important. She hit send before she could reconsider. 3 minutes later, her phone rang. Isabella. Domenico's voice, rough like he'd been sleeping. "What's wrong?" She told him everything, about Katerina, about the system failing, about her ex-husband walking free. She didn't ask for help. She didn't have to. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then Domenico said, "Give me his name." "I can't. Give me his name. This isn't why I called. I just needed—" What did she need? "I just needed to tell someone who would understand." "I understand, and I'm asking for his name." "Domenico, do you want him to hurt someone else? Another woman? Maybe someone with children next time?" Isabella's eyes burned. "No. Then trust me. I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." His voice gentled. "Let me help, Isabella. Let me do what you can't." She should say no, should hang up, should do literally anything except what she did next. "His name is Victor Sokolov." "I'll handle it," Domenico said. "What does that mean?" "It means he'll never hurt anyone again. And you won't have to know the details." "I want to know." "No, you don't." "Yes, I do. If I'm asking you to do this, you're not asking. I'm choosing. There's a difference. Domenico, go home, Isabella. Take care of yourself. Let me take care of this." He hung up. Isabella sat in the hospital parking lot for 20 minutes, shaking. She'd just done something irreversible, crossed a line she'd sworn she never would. And the worst part? She didn't regret it. 5 days later, Viktor Sokolov disappeared. The police investigated, found nothing. No body. No evidence. Just gone. Katerina recovered slowly, moved to another city, started over. Isabella never asked Domenico what happened. He never told her. But 2 weeks after Victor vanished, a text came through from an unknown number. "She's safe now. So are the next ones he would have hurt." "Sleep well." Isabella deleted the message immediately. But she did sleep better. 6 weeks after Domenico left, Michelle announced she was flying to Sicily for spring break. "Come with me," she said over coffee. "Papa would love to see you, and you need a break." "I can't afford. Papa said he'd cover it. He specifically asked me to invite you." Isabella's heart stuttered. "He did?" "Yeah. He said you seemed stressed last time he saw you. Thought a vacation might help." It was a terrible idea. It was possibly the worst idea in the history of ideas. "Okay," Isabella said. "I'll come." Michelle squealed and hugged her. Isabella sat there, wondering what she'd just agreed to, and knowing, deep down, that she'd been waiting for this excuse all along. The flight to Sicily was long. Michelle slept most of the way. Isabella stared out the window, watching the ocean pass below, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. They landed in Palermo in the early evening. The air smelled like salt, and flowers, and something ancient. A car was waiting. Not Angelo, someone else. Younger, more dangerous looking. He drove them through narrow streets to a house on the edge of the city. Not as large as Domenico's estate back home, but older, more beautiful, overlooking the Mediterranean. Domenico stood in the doorway, waiting. He looked different, more relaxed, tan from the sun, hair slightly longer. But his eyes, those were the same, intense, seeing everything. When they landed on Isabella, something electric passed between them. "Benvenuta," he said softly. "Welcome." Michelle ran to hug him. He held his daughter close, kissed her head, murmured something in Italian that made her laugh. Then his eyes found Isabella again over Michelle's shoulder, and she knew coming here was definitely a mistake. But it was too late to turn back now. The house in Sicily felt alive in ways his American estate never had. Terracotta floors worn smooth by generations. Windows that opened to sea breezes carrying the scent of lemon groves and wild herbs. Voices drifting from nearby houses. Italian, rapid and musical. laughter punctuating conversations Isabella couldn't understand. Michelle claimed the bedroom she'd used since childhood, decorated with remnants of her teenage years. Isabella was given a guest room down the hall. Simple, beautiful. A balcony overlooking gardens that tumbled toward the cliffs. "Dinner in an hour," Domenico said from the doorway. "Rest if you need to. The flight is long." He disappeared before she could respond. Isabella unpacked slowly, hands shaking slightly. She shouldn't be here. Every instinct screamed it. But when she stepped onto the balcony and saw the Mediterranean stretching endless and blue, something in her chest loosened. This place was different, away from rules and roles and everything that made their connection impossible. Here, she could almost pretend they were just two people. Almost. Dinner was on the terrace. Simple food. Pasta with fresh tomatoes, grilled fish, wine that tasted like sunshine. Michelle talked nonstop about her internship, her boyfriend, her plans for after graduation. Domenico listened with the same careful attention he always gave his daughter. Asked questions, offered advice, the perfect father. But every so often, his eyes would drift to Isabella, just for a second, then away again. She felt each glance like a touch. "How's your research going, Papa?" Michelle asked. "Well, I've made significant progress on the book." "What's it about?" Isabella heard herself ask. He looked at her fully then. The intersection of moral philosophy and legal enforcement. When the law fails to provide justice, what obligations do individuals have to act? "Sounds like you're justifying vigilantism," she said quietly. Michelle laughed. "Bella's always so serious about this stuff. It's just theory, right, Papa?" "Right," Domenico agreed, but his eyes held Isabella's. "Just theory." After dinner, Michelle wanted to walk into the village. There was a festival, music, dancing, food vendors lining the streets. "You should come," she told her father. "I have work to finish, but you two go. Enjoy yourselves." Isabella should have been relieved. Distance was good. Safe. Instead, disappointment settled heavy in her stomach. The festival was magical. Strings of lights crisscrossed the narrow streets. Musicians played on corners. Children ran laughing between vendors selling sweets and handmade crafts. Michelle knew everyone, stopped every few feet to hug someone, introduce Isabella, slip seamlessly between English and Italian. Isabella felt foreign in the best way. Anonymous. Free. They were watching a street performer when a young man approached. Mid-20s, handsome, with an easy smile. He said something in Italian to Michelle, who laughed and replied. Then he turned to Isabella. "You are American?" he asked in accented English. "Yes. I am Luca. Welcome to Palermo." He said it like he personally owned the city. "You are very beautiful. Would you dance with me?" The music had shifted, something slow and romantic. Couples were swaying in the street. "Oh, I don't—" "Come on, Bella," Michelle urged. "Live a little." Before she could protest further, Luca had taken her hand and pulled her into the crowd of dancers. He was a good dancer. Confident. His hand on her waist was respectful but firm. He asked about America, her studies, how long she was staying. Normal conversation. A normal, age-appropriate man showing normal interest. She felt nothing. They danced for 2 songs. When the music changed to something faster, Luca suggested getting drinks. Isabella was about to agree when she felt it. That prickle of awareness. She turned. Domenico stood at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, face unreadable. But his eyes were locked on Luca's hand, where it rested on Isabella's waist. Her breath caught. "I should get back to my friend," she told. "Luca." "One drink? Please." "I can't. But thank you for the dance." She extracted herself as politely as possible and made her way to Michel, very deliberately not looking at Domenico. But she felt his presence like gravity. The walk home was quieter. Michel yawned, tired from the long day. She linked her arm through Isabella's. Luca was cute, wasn't he? I guess. You guess? Bella, he was gorgeous and totally into you. I'm not interested. Why not? You're always so focused on school. You never date. You never even look at guys. Because the only man I look at is your father, Isabella thought, but said, I'm just busy. School is important. School isn't everything. Sometimes you need to live a little. Isabella thought about Domenico watching her dance, the darkness in his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Maybe you're right, she said softly. When they got back to the house, the lights were still on. Domenico sat on the terrace, laptop open, glass of wine, beside him. Michel kissed his cheek. We're exhausted, heading to bed. Night, Papa. Buonanotte, tesoro. Michel disappeared inside. Isabella should have followed. Instead, she found herself walking onto the terrace. Can't sleep, she asked. Too much work. He closed the laptop. Did you enjoy the festival? It was nice. You danced. Not a question, a statement. Michel's friend was being polite. He was interested. Maybe. And you? Isabella wrapped her arms around herself. The night air was cool. I wasn't. Why not? He was young, handsome, appropriate. Is that what you want? For me to be interested in appropriate men? Domenico's jaw tightened. I want you to be happy. That's not what I asked. He stood slowly, walked to the terrace railing, stared out at the dark sea. No, I don't want you interested in other men, which is exactly why you should be. You're being cryptic again. I'm being honest. He turned to face her. I saw you, dancing with him and wanted to break his hands. That's not rational. It's not right. It's jealous? Yes, he admitted quietly. Furiously, irrationally jealous of a boy who was doing nothing wrong except touching what I have no right to want. Isabella's heart hammered. You left to avoid this. I left to give you space, time to think clearly, to realize this. He gestured between them, is impossible. And has it worked? Are you thinking clearly now? No. If anything, I'm thinking less clearly than ever. She stepped closer. Reckless. Why? Because I spent 6 weeks convincing myself I could forget you. That distance would cure this. And then you walked off that plane, and I knew... He stopped. I knew I was lying to myself. They stood 3 feet apart. The sea whispered against the cliffs below. Somewhere in the village, music still played. What do we do? Isabella whispered. I don't know. We can't... I know. Michel would never forgive either of us. I know that too. You're twice my age. More than. This is wrong on every level. Yes, he moved closer, 1 step. But I'm finding it harder to care about that. You should care. We both should. Should. His eyes searched her face. But do you? The lie wouldn't come. No, I don't. His hand lifted, hesitated. If I touch you, I won't want to stop. Then don't touch me. Isabella, I mean it. Don't touch me. Don't make this harder. Just... Her voice broke. Just let me go back to pretending this isn't happening. He dropped his hand immediately, stepped back. You're right. I'm sorry. She should leave. Walk inside. End this before it became something they couldn't take back. But her feet wouldn't move. I called you, she said suddenly. About Katerina. I crossed that line already. I asked you to do something I knew was wrong. You were protecting someone. I was being complicit in whatever you did to that man. Do you regret it? Isabella thought about Katerina's new life. The women Victor would never hurt now. No. Then you understand. Sometimes the wrong choice is the only right one. Is that what this is? Us? I don't know what this is, but I know it won't end well. Then we should stop, before someone gets hurt. Too late, he said softly. I was hurt the moment you screamed in my house, when I saw real fear in your eyes, and knew I'd put it there. I've been trying to undo that damage ever since. You can't undo it. What I saw was truth, ugly truth, but truth nonetheless. He exhaled. I won't lie to you, Isabella. Not about who I am or what I do. If anything were to happen between us, you'd have to accept all of it. The darkness, the violence, the choices I make that you'll never fully agree with. That's a lot to ask. Which is why I'm not asking. I'm telling you to walk away. And if I can't, then we're both in trouble. Isabella fled to her room before she could do something irreversible, like kiss him, or tell him she'd stopped caring about appropriate the moment he'd looked at her, like she mattered more than his own rules. She lay in bed, listening to the sea, and knew sleep wouldn't come. Around 2 a.m, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I can't sleep either. She stared at it. Should delete it. Should ignore it. Instead, she typed back. This doesn't change anything. His response came immediately. I know. We still can't do this. I know that too. So why are we texting? A long pause. Then, because I need to know you're still here, that I didn't dream you coming to Sicily. Isabella's chest ached. I'm here. Are you afraid? She thought about lying. Yes. Of me? Of everything. Another pause. Get some sleep, Isabella. Tomorrow we'll pretend this conversation never happened. We're good at pretending. Too good. She set the phone down, closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, fell asleep thinking about tomorrow instead of dreading it. Morning brought sunshine and the smell of fresh bread. Isabella found Michelle and Domenico on the terrace, having breakfast. Normal. Domestic. Achingly painful. Morning, Michelle chirped. Papa's making us a traditional Sicilian breakfast. Wait until you try these pastries. Domenico's eyes met Isabella's briefly, gave nothing away. Coffee? Please. She sat. Ate. Participated in conversation about the day's plans. Michelle wanted to visit the beach, maybe drive to a nearby town famous for its ceramics. Domenico begged off. Too much work. Isabella felt both relief and disappointment in equal measure. The beach was beautiful. Michelle spent hours in the water, while Isabella stayed on the sand, reading a book she couldn't focus on. Her phone buzzed around noon. Unknown number. Is she trying to drown herself, or does she always swim that far out? Isabella looked up, scanned the cliffs above the beach, couldn't see him but knew he was there. She typed, Are you watching us? I'm always watching, making sure you're safe. That's creepy. That's honest. Where are you? Where you can't see me. But I can see you. Isabella's pulse quickened. This is inappropriate. Most things about us are. We agreed to pretend last night didn't happen. I'm excellent at pretending in person. Text is harder. Despite everything, she smiled. You should stop. I should. But you're wearing that blue swimsuit and I'm only human. Her breath caught. Domenico. I know. I'll stop. Enjoy your day. The messages ended, but Isabella's heart raced for another hour. That evening, Michelle's boyfriend called. They argued in rapid Italian for 20 minutes. When she hung up, she was crying. He's being impossible, she sobbed to Isabella. He doesn't understand why I'm here instead of with him. He thinks I'm choosing my father over him. Maybe you need some space from each other. Maybe. Michelle wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a fun vacation. I'm ruining it. You're not ruining anything. Can we just watch movies tonight? I don't want to think about him. They set up in the living room. Michelle picked romantic comedies that required no thinking. Domenico joined them halfway through the second film, sitting in a chair across from the sofa where Isabella and Michelle were curled up. Isabella felt his presence like electricity. By the third movie, Michelle had fallen asleep, head on Isabella's shoulder. The film played on, something about star-crossed lovers and impossible odds. She cried over that boy for an hour, Isabella said quietly. He's not worth her tears. You don't like him? I don't like how he makes her doubt herself. Domenico's voice was soft, careful not to wake Michelle. She deserves someone who makes her feel powerful, not small. That's sweet. Protective father. It's practical. Weak men need weak women. Strong men want equals. Isabella looked at him. Is that what you want? An equal? His eyes met hers across the darkened room. I want someone who challenges me, who sees all of me, the good and the terrible, and chooses to stay anyway. That's a lot to ask. It's everything to ask. On screen, the lovers kissed in the rain. Predictable. Perfect. Life isn't like movies, Isabella said. No, it's messier, more complicated, more painful, but also more real. Yes, he stood. I should carry her to bed. He lifted Michelle effortlessly, cradling her like she weighed nothing. She murmured something in her sleep, but didn't wake. Isabella followed them upstairs, watched as Domenico tucked his daughter in with the same gentleness she'd seen before, kissed her forehead, murmured, Sogni d'oro. Sweet dreams. When he turned, Isabella was still standing in the doorway. She's lucky, Isabella whispered, to have you. I'm the lucky one. She's the only purely good thing I've ever created. They stood there in the hallway, Michelle's door half open, the rest of the house quiet. I should go to bed, Isabella said. You should. But neither moved. Domenico. Don't. His voice was rough. Don't say whatever you're about to say. Not here. Not with her right there. I was just going to say goodnight. That's not what your eyes are saying. What are my eyes saying? He moved closer. Close enough that she could smell cedar and smoke. Close enough to see his pulse beating in his throat. They're saying you're as tired of fighting this as I am. And if I am, then we're both damned. His hand lifted. This time it touched, just his fingers against her cheek. Feather light, there and gone in a heartbeat. But it burned. Buonanotte, Isabella. He walked away, left her standing in the hallway, skin on fire, heart breaking and healing all at once. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Daytime activities with Michelle, tourist sites, local restaurants, lazy hours on the beach, evening movies, or dinners, where Domenico played the perfect host and father. And stolen moments, text messages, glances across rooms, his hand steadying her elbow when she stumbled on cobblestones, her fingers brushing his when passing dishes at dinner. Small touches, insignificant to anyone watching, cataclysmic to them. Isabella felt like she was living 2 lives, one where she was Michelle's friend, enjoying a beautiful vacation, another where every interaction with Domenico felt like foreplay to something inevitable. On the 4th night, Michelle announced she was going to a club with some local friends she'd known since childhood. You should come, Bella. I'm tired. Think I'll just read and go to bed early. You sure? Positive. Have fun. After Michelle left in a whirl of perfume and excitement, the house fell quiet. Isabella sat on her balcony, book unopened in her lap, listening to the sea. She heard him before she saw him. Domenico appeared in her doorway. May I join you? She should say no. Yes. He stepped onto the small balcony. There was only one chair. He leaned against the railing instead, giving her space. Michelle thinks you're tired. he said. I am. Of the vacation? Or of pretending? Both, he nodded slowly. I'll take her back to Palermo tomorrow. Get you an earlier flight home. This was a mistake. Was it? Wasn't it? We're torturing ourselves and risking hurting her. You're right. Isabella set her book aside. It was a mistake. I should never have come. But you did. But I did. Why? She stood, moved to the railing beside him. You know why. I want to hear you say it. Because I missed you. Because 6 weeks without seeing you felt like suffocating. Because I'm apparently insane enough to fly across the ocean for a man I should be running from. Domenico's hands gripped the railing, knuckles white. Isabella, your turn. Why did you invite me? I didn't. I asked Michelle to invite you because I'm a coward who couldn't do it myself. Why? Because I knew if I heard your voice, I'd say things I can't take back. Like what? He turned to face her. Like I haven't thought about anything but you for 6 weeks. Like I've started 3 different relationships with appropriate, age-appropriate women, and ended them all within days because they weren't you. Like I'm falling for you in ways that defy logic and morality and every rule I've ever lived by. Isabella's breath stopped. Like I want you, he continued, voice dropping, in ways that should be illegal, in ways that probably are in some jurisdictions. I want to know every thought in that brilliant mind, every dream, every fear. I want to protect you from everything, including myself. I want to be the man who makes you feel safe, and the man who makes you feel alive. I want, he stopped, swallowed hard. I want things I have no right to want. The sea whispered, night wrapped around them. Isabella's hands shook. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. Yes, Michelle would be devastated. Your position at the university would be compromised at minimum, destroyed at worst. The age difference is unconscionable. Then tell me to go inside. Tell me this is wrong. It is wrong, he said. All of it. Every part. Then say it. Tell me to leave. His eyes held hers. I can't. Why not? Because I'm a selfish bastard who's tired of doing the right thing when it feels like dying. Isabella moved before she could think. 1 step. 2. Until they were inches apart. I'm 23 years old, she whispered. I know my own mind. I'm not some naive girl you're manipulating. I see exactly what you are, what you've done, the darkness you carry, and I don't. His voice was ragged. Don't say it unless you mean it. I'm choosing this, with my eyes open, knowing all of it. You can't possibly, she kissed him. For 1 heartbeat, he didn't move. Frozen. Letting her make the choice, giving her time to pull back. Then his control shattered. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite the hunger in his kiss, like she was precious, breakable. Something to be worshipped even as he claimed her. Isabella's hands fisted in his shirt, pulled him closer. She'd imagined this, late at night when she couldn't sleep, in stolen moments, when she watched him across rooms. But imagination was nothing compared to reality. He kissed like he did everything else, completely, consuming, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. We can't take this back, he said. I know. Everything becomes complicated now. I know that too. Isabella, his thumb traced her cheekbone. I'm going to want all of you, not just moments, not just secrets, everything. That's terrifying. Should I apologize? No. She kissed him again, softer this time. Just promise you mean it. That this isn't just... It's not. He pulled back to meet her eyes. I don't do casual. I don't do temporary. If we do this, I'm all in. Completely. Catastrophically. And I'll expect the same from you. That's a lot of pressure. That's honesty. Isabella's heart hammered. This was insane. Reckless. Everything she'd been taught to avoid. But it was also the most honest she'd felt in her entire life. I'm all in, she whispered. They stayed on the balcony for hours, talking, kissing, learning each other in ways that had nothing to do with touch and everything to do with truth. He told her about his wife, Michelle's mother, who died when Michelle was 5. A car accident. Quick. No suffering. He told her about inheriting his family's organization, about the choice he'd made to use power for protection instead of exploitation, about the weight of being responsible for hundreds of lives. She told him about growing up poor, about her mother working 3 jobs to send her to college, about her fear that she'd never be enough, smart enough, strong enough, worthy enough. You're everything, he said against her hair. Don't you know that? I'm ordinary. You're extraordinary, and I intend to spend considerable time proving it to you. Considerable time? How long are we talking? He smiled against her temple. The rest of my life, if you'll let me. It was too much, too fast, too impossible. But Isabella found herself saying, ask me again in 6 months. I'll ask you every day until you say yes. Around 2 in the morning, they heard the car. Michelle returning. Reality crashed back in. They separated quickly. Domenico ran a hand through his hair, trying to look less disheveled. Isabella pressed her fingers to her lips, swollen from kissing. She can't know, Isabella whispered. Not yet. Agreed. We need to figure out how to tell her. Do this right. Is there a right way? Probably not. But we owe it to her to try. He kissed her once more, quick, hard, promising everything and nothing. Then he was gone. Isabella lay in bed, listening to Michelle get ready for sleep down the hall. Her mind spun. What had she done? Everything she'd sworn she wouldn't, and she didn't regret a single second. Her phone buzzed. Domenico. I should feel guilty. I don't. Isabella. Me neither. Sleep, tesoro. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. Did you just call me tesoro? Would you prefer something else? Isabella smiled into the darkness. No. I like it. Good. Because you're mine now. And I take care of what's mine. Possessive. Absolutely. She fell asleep smiling. Morning came too bright and too early. Isabella woke to find a note slipped under her door. Had to handle business. Back by evening. Be careful today. It was vague, cryptic, exactly like him. Michelle wanted to spend the day shopping in Palermo. They took the bus into the city, wandered through markets filled with produce and flowers and handmade goods. Everything felt different now. The world had shifted on its axis. Colors seemed brighter. Food tasted richer. Even the air felt charged with possibility. Isabella was in love. The realization hit her somewhere between a vendor selling lemons and another offering fresh ricotta. She was in love with Domenico Russo, a man twice her age who tortured criminals in his spare time. A man who was her professor, her best friend's father. She should be horrified. Instead, she felt free. You're glowing, Michelle said over lunch. What happened? Isabella's heart stopped. What? You look happy. Different. Did something happen last night? I just slept well. Liar, Michelle grinned. Did you meet someone? Was it Luca? Did he find you on social media? No, nothing like that. Then what? Isabella took a breath. I think I just finally figured some things out. About what I want. Which is your father. I'm still figuring that part out. Michelle reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Whatever it is, I'm happy for you. You deserve good things, Bella. You work so hard. You give so much. It's time someone gave back to you. Guilt twisted Isabella's stomach. Michelle had no idea how true that was, or how devastated she'd be when she found out. They returned to the house around 6. Domenico's car was in the driveway. Isabella's pulse quickened. Inside, they found him in the kitchen, cooking. He looked up when they entered, eyes finding Isabella immediately. "How was shopping?" "Good," Michelle said. "We bought entirely too much. Bella needs another suitcase just for the ceramics." "I'll have one delivered." He turned back to the stove. "Dinner in 30 minutes. His voice was casual. But when Michelle turned to put away her bags, he looked at Isabella again, just for a second. And she saw heat. Promise. Hunger barely contained. She excused herself to change before she did something stupid, like cross the kitchen and kiss him in front of his daughter. Dinner was torture. Every accidental brush of hands passing dishes, every moment their eyes met across the table. Isabella felt like she was burning from the inside out. Michelle talked about her boyfriend again. They'd made up. He'd apologized. She was thinking of flying back early to see him. "You should stay," Domenico said. "You just got here." "I know, but I miss him. And you're always working anyway, Papa. You barely have time for me." Something flickered across his face. "You're right. I've been neglecting you. I'm sorry." "I didn't mean," Michelle sighed. "I just thought maybe Bella and I could go back together. Make it a girls' trip." "When?" Isabella asked. "Maybe this weekend? Give us a few more days here, then head home?" Domenico's eyes met Isabella's. She saw the question there. "Actually," Isabella said slowly, "I was thinking of staying a bit longer. If that's okay. There's a legal library in Palermo I wanted to research at, for my thesis." It was a lie, a complete fabrication. But Domenico's expression shifted. Relief, gratitude, something darker. "You're welcome to stay as long as you like," he said. Michelle beamed. "Really? That's perfect. Papa won't be completely alone. And Bella, you can use this time to work. It's so quiet here." Exactly what I was thinking. After dinner, Michelle video called her boyfriend. Isabella retreated to her balcony, tried to read, failed completely. Around 10, her door opened. Domenico stepped inside, closed it behind him. "That was dangerous," he said, lying to her like that. "You're the one who taught me that sometimes lies are necessary." "I'm a terrible influence." "Yes." Isabella stood. "You are." He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like he'd been starving for it all day. Which, fair. She had been too. "She leaves Saturday," he said against her mouth. 3 days. "And then?" "Then we have 1 week before I have to be back for a conference. 1 week where it's just us. That's not very long. Then we'll make it count." He pulled back to look at her. "But we need to talk, really talk, about what happens when we go back, how we tell Michelle, what this means for my position at the university." "Okay, let's talk now." "Not now." He kissed her again. Slow. Deep. "Now I just want this. Talking can wait until she's gone." They spent the next 3 days in careful choreography. Days with Michelle, beaches and restaurants and tourist sites. Nights stolen in whispers, on balconies, in shadowed hallways when Michelle was asleep. They didn't sleep together. Domenico was adamant about that. "When I have you that way," he said one night, hands tangled in her hair, "it won't be rushed. It won't be hidden. I want all night. I want to hear every sound you make without worrying about being quiet. I get it," Isabella breathed. "I want that too." Then we wait, just a few more days. It was the sweetest torture she'd ever experienced. Saturday morning, Domenico drove Michelle to the airport. Isabella stayed behind, claiming research to do. The goodbye was emotional. Michelle clung to her father, made him promise to visit soon, to not work too hard. "Take care of Bella," she told him. "Make sure she eats. She forgets when she's working." "I will." "And Bella," Michelle hugged her tight. "Thank you for staying, for keeping Papa company. He gets lonely here, even if he won't admit it." Guilt burned Isabella's throat. "Of course. I love you, girl. Love you, too." After Michelle's taxi disappeared, Isabella stood in the driveway feeling like the world's worst friend. Her phone buzzed. Domenico. She made it through security. She's safe. Isabella. Good. I'll be home in 20 minutes. Okay. And then, Tesoro. We're going to stop pretending. He walked through the door exactly 20 minutes later. Found her on the terrace, staring at the sea. "Hey," she said. He didn't respond with words, just pulled her into his arms and held her. Just held her, like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. "I feel terrible," she whispered against his chest. "I know. She's my best friend. I know that too. She's going to hate me. Maybe. At first." He pulled back to look at her. "But she loves you. And I'm going to make sure she understands this isn't some fling. That you're not." "Not what?" "Not someone I'm using. Not a phase. Not a mistake." His hands framed her face. "You're the woman I intend to spend my life with. Once she understands that, once she sees we're serious, she'll come around. You can't know that. I know my daughter. She wants me to be happy. And you make me happy in ways I didn't know I could still feel." Isabella's eyes burned. "We're really doing this?" "Yes. Unless you've changed your mind." "Have you?" "Not even. Slightly." "Then neither have I." He smiled. Actually smiled. Full and genuine and devastating. "Good. Then let's stop wasting time." He cooked dinner while she watched. They ate on the terrace as the sun set. Talked about everything and nothing. Her childhood, his youth in Sicily. Books they loved. Movies that made them cry. Normal conversation. Getting to know you talk. Except nothing about them was normal. After dinner, Domenico poured wine. They sat on the terrace sofa, his arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest. "Tell me about your wife," Isabella said. "If you want to." He was quiet for a long moment. "Her name was Lucia. We met when I was 30. She was a teacher. Kind. Patient. The opposite of everything my world represented. Did you love her?" "I cared for her deeply. She gave me Michelle." "But love?" He considered. "I loved what she represented. Safety. Normalcy. A chance to be something other than what my family made me. But I don't think I was capable of the kind of love she deserved. I was too young, too damaged, too focused on building power. Do you think you're capable of it now?" He looked down at her. "With you?" "Yes. Because you see all of me, the parts I hide from everyone else. And you're still here. Maybe I'm just broken too. Maybe we're broken in ways that fit together." Isabella tilted her head up. He kissed her. Soft at first. Then deeper. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. "I want to take you to bed." Her breath caught. "Okay. But I need you to be sure, completely certain. Because once we cross this line..." "I'm sure." She stood, held out her hand. "I've never been more sure of anything." His bedroom was simple. Large bed, windows overlooking the sea, moonlight streaming through gauze curtains. He closed the door, locked it, turned to face her. "We go slow," he said. "I'm not fragile." "I know. But I want to savor this. Savor you." He crossed to her, hands gentle as they slid into her hair. Kissed her like they had all the time in the world. And they did. The whole night. No rushing. No hiding. Just them. Isabella woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. She was wrapped in soft sheets, deliciously sore, completely content. Domenico sat in a chair by the window, watching her. He wore only sleep pants, hair disheveled, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked younger, less guarded, human. "Morning," she said. "Good morning." He set aside the book he'd been reading. "How do you feel?" "Amazing. Sore. Happy." "Good." He came to the bed, sat on the edge, traced her cheekbone with his thumb. "I need to tell you something." Her stomach tightened. "What?" "Last night wasn't just physical for me. I need you to understand that." "I know. No, listen." His eyes were serious. "I'm in love with you, Isabella. Completely. Irrevocably. And I understand if it's too soon for you to feel the same. But I need you to know where I stand." Her heart stopped. Then started again, faster. "You love me?" "Yes." "Since when?" "Since you slapped me in my office and called me a hypocrite. Maybe before. I don't know the exact moment. But somewhere between your courage and your brilliance and your impossible, stubborn refusal to back down, I fell. Hard." Isabella sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. "I love you too." His eyes widened. I love you. I've been trying not to. I've been telling myself it's impossible, insane, wrong. But I do. I love you." He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. "Say it again," he whispered. "I love you. Again. I love you, Domenico." He kissed her, deep, claiming. "You're mine now, completely. Say you understand. I'm yours. Say you'll marry me." She pulled back. "What? Not now. Not yet. But eventually. Say you'll marry me. That's insane. Probably. But I don't do anything halfway. If we're doing this, we're doing it completely. I want forever, Isabella. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to give you everything. Protect you. Build a life with you. We haven't even told Michelle yet. We will. And she'll adjust. And then I'm putting a ring on your finger so everyone knows you're taken." Possessive. Desperately. He kissed her again. "Now, answer the question. Will you marry me? Eventually?" She should say no, should laugh, should tell him to slow down. But looking into his eyes, seeing absolute certainty there, she heard herself say, "Yes, eventually, when the time is right." Good enough for now. They spent the next week in a bubble, days on the beach, nights wrapped around each other, learning every inch, every preference, every secret. Isabella had never been so happy, or so terrified about the inevitable return to reality. On their last night in Sicily, they sat on the terrace under stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. "We fly back tomorrow," Isabella said. "I know. Everything changes when we land." "Yes. How do we tell her?" Domenico was quiet for a long moment. "Together. We tell her together. Make it clear this isn't something that just happened, that we've thought about it, that we're serious. She's going to be so hurt. Probably. But she loves us both. Eventually she'll see that this is real, that we're not trying to hurt her. And if she doesn't, then we give her time, space, whatever she needs. But we don't hide. We don't apologize for loving each other." Isabella leaned into him. "Your job. I'll resign from teaching you. Transfer you to another professor. There are ways to make this work without compromising ethics. People will talk. Let them." He kissed her temple. "I've survived worse than gossip." They landed in the States on a gray Tuesday afternoon. Domenico drove her home, carried her bags upstairs, kissed her at her door. "I'll talk to Michelle tomorrow," he said. "Set up dinner, the three of us. I should be there when you tell her." "You will be. We're in this together. He cupped her face. I love you. I love you too. Whatever happens, we face it together. Promise me. I promise. But the universe had other plans. That night, around 11, Isabella's phone rang. Michelle. Hey, Isabella answered. You okay? Liar. Michelle's voice was cold, shaking. You're a lying, backstabbing. Isabella's blood froze. Michelle, how could you? My father? You slept with my father? How did you? I called the house in Sicily this morning. He didn't answer. So I called again. And again. Finally, he picked up. And I heard you. In the background. Your voice. In his bedroom. She was crying now. Furious, hurt tears. Tell me it's not true. Tell me I'm wrong. Isabella's throat closed. I can't. Oh my God. A sob. Oh my God, it's true. How long? Michelle, please, let me explain. How? Long. A week, just a week since you left. That's a lie. I saw how you looked at him. How he looked at you. This has been happening. Right in front of me. While I trusted you. Both of you. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Tell me, Bella. Explain how my best friend seduced my father. I didn't seduce him. We fell. She stopped. We love each other. Michelle laughed. Bitter. Broken. Love. You think this is love? He's 60 years old. He's your professor. This is sick. Wrong. And you, her voice cracked. I thought you were my friend. I am your friend. Friends don't fuck their friends' fathers. The words hit like a slap. I know you're hurt, Isabella started. Hurt? I'm destroyed. You both destroyed me. I never want to see either of you again. She hung up. Isabella tried calling back, texted, begged. No response. At midnight, Domenico called. She knows, he said heavily. I know. She called me, said terrible things. She said worse to me, told me I was disgusting, that I'd failed her as a father, that she'd never forgive me. Isabella's chest ached. This is my fault. No, it's mine. I should have told her before we left. Should have handled this better. What do? We give her time, space, and we don't give up, on her or each other. She hates me. She's hurt. There's a difference. Domenico, I love you, he said firmly. That hasn't changed. Won't change. We'll get through this. But Isabella wasn't sure they would. A week passed. Michelle blocked both their numbers, refused to see Domenico, dropped out of his class and filed a formal complaint with the university. The investigation was brutal. Questions about their relationship, when it started. Had there been favoritism, inappropriate contact? Domenico resigned his teaching position to protect Isabella. But the damage was done. People talked, whispered, judged. Isabella's classmates avoided her. Professors looked at her differently. She went from respected student to scandal in 48 hours. And still, Michelle wouldn't talk to her. 2 weeks after everything exploded, Isabella stood in her apartment staring at acceptance letters from law schools across the country. She could transfer. Start over somewhere no one knew her story. Escape. Her phone rang. Domenico. Hey, she answered. Where are you? Home. Why? I'm outside. Can I come up? She buzzed him in. When he walked through her door, he looked tired. Older. But his eyes, those still held the same intensity. You're thinking of leaving, he said. Not a question. How did you? Because I know you. And I know this has been hell. She won't talk to me. Your job is gone. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of... Stop! He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. None of that matters. It all matters. Not more than this. Than us. Domenico, marry me. She pulled back. What? Marry me. Now. Tomorrow. Next week. I don't care. But marry me. Show everyone this is real. That we're not ashamed. that we chose each other and we're not backing down. That's insane. So is everything else we've done. But it's real. It's true. So marry me." Isabella stared at him. This impossible, complicated, infuriating man who'd turned her entire life upside down. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes? Yes. I'll marry you." He kissed her, deep, claiming, promising everything. They married 3 days later. Small ceremony. No guests, just them and a judge, and promises that felt sacred despite the chaos surrounding them. Isabella wore a simple white dress. Domenico wore a dark suit. They said vows that brought tears to her eyes. And when the judge pronounced them married, Domenico slid a ring onto her finger. Emerald and diamonds, stunning and perfect. "Now everyone knows," he said. "You're mine, and I'm yours. Forever." But forever didn't fix broken relationships. Michelle still wouldn't speak to them, refused to acknowledge the marriage. Cut them both out, completely. It broke something in Domenico. Isabella saw it. The way he'd stare at his phone, hoping for a message that never came. The pain in his eyes when he talked about his daughter. "She'll come around," Isabella would say. "Will she?" "She has to. She loves you." She did. Past tense. 3 months into their marriage, Isabella discovered she was pregnant. She stared at the positive test, heart racing. They talked about children. Someday. Eventually. Not this soon. She told Domenico that night. He went very still. Then he pulled her into his arms and cried. Actually cried. Silent tears against her hair. "We're having a baby," he whispered. "Yes, a baby. Are you okay?" "I'm terrified, and so happy I can barely breathe." Isabella tried one more time to reach Michelle. Sent a letter. Old-fashioned. Handwritten. "Dear Michelle, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I've hurt you in ways I can never undo. But I need you to know. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to fall in love with your father. But I did. And he loves me. Really, truly loves me. This isn't some midlife crisis or inappropriate fling. We're married now. And I'm pregnant. You're going to have a sibling. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to be happy for us. I'm just asking you to know that none of this was done to hurt you. Your father is devastated that you won't speak to him. He loves you more than anything. Please, just think about it. Love, Bella." 2 weeks later, a response came. Short, brutal. "Congratulations on your pregnancy. I hope your child never experiences the betrayal I felt. Don't contact me again." Domenico held Isabella while she cried. "She'll come around," he murmured. But he didn't sound convinced anymore. 4 months pregnant, Isabella was studying for the bar exam when the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Domenico was at a meeting. She opened the door. Michelle stood there, older looking, sadder. But there. "Hi," she said quietly. Isabella's breath caught. "Hi. Can I come in?" "Of course." They sat in the living room, awkward, painful. Isabella waited for Michelle to speak. "You're showing," Michelle finally said. "Yes? Boy or girl?" "We don't know yet. We want to be surprised." Michelle nodded, twisted her hands in her lap. "I was so angry." "I know. I still am. Kind of. I understand. But I've been thinking. A lot. And I realized." She looked up, eyes wet. "I realized I was angry because I felt like you were taking him from me. Like I was losing my father to you. You're not." "I know. I know that now. He still loves me. Maybe even more, because now he's got this whole second chance at life thing happening. And you," she swallowed, "you make him happy. I've never seen him this happy. Not even with Mama." Isabella's throat burned. "I'm not saying I'm okay with everything," Michelle continued. "I still think it's weird and complicated, and probably going to make family dinners really awkward forever. But you're my friend, and he's my father, and you love each other. So I'm trying to accept it. Michelle, I'm not ready to hug you or have sleepovers or act like nothing happened. But I'm here, and I want to know my sibling. So we start there, okay? Isabella nodded, tears streaming. Okay, thank you. God, thank you. Don't make me regret it. I won't. I promise. When Domenico came home that evening, he found them sitting together, talking. Not like they used to. Not yet. But talking. He stopped in the doorway, looking between them. Michelle stood. Hi, Papa. Tesoro. His voice broke. You're here. I'm here. He crossed the room, pulled his daughter into his arms, held her like she might disappear. I'm so sorry, he said. For hurting you. For not handling this better. I'm sorry, too. For cutting you out. For being so angry I couldn't see. She pulled back. I love you. Papa. I love you, too. So much. Isabella watched them, heart full, knowing this wasn't perfect, wasn't fixed, but it was a start. 6 months later, Isabella gave birth to a daughter. They named her Lucia, after Domenico's first wife, after forgiveness and second chances, and the complicated beauty of blended families. Michelle held her sister for the first time and cried, happy tears this time. She's perfect, she whispered. She is, Domenico agreed. He stood beside Isabella's hospital bed, hand in hers, looking at both his daughters with wonder. Isabella watched them, her husband, her stepdaughter, who'd become her sister-in-law and friend again, the baby girl who'd brought them all back together. It wasn't the story she'd planned. It was better, messier, harder, more complicated than any romance novel, but real, and theirs. 2 years later, Isabella passed the bar exam on her first try, joined a firm specializing in domestic violence law, used her position and Domenico's resources to help women the system failed. Michelle graduated, started her own career, brought boyfriends to family dinners that were indeed awkward, but filled with love. Domenico officially retired from the university, focused on his business interests, which Isabella had learned to accept without asking too many questions. Some truths were better left in shadow. They lived between two worlds, his darkness, her light, finding balance in the spaces between. Little Lucia grew, bright, fierce, loved beyond measure by parents, and a sister who'd learned that family wasn't always simple, but it was always worth fighting for. And sometimes, late at night, when Isabella lay in Domenico's arms listening to him breathe, she'd think about that first night. The blood, the fear, the impossible beginning. And she'd think, thank God I didn't run. Because the best things in life, they were terrifying, they were complicated, they required courage, but they were worth it, every single time. Sometimes love doesn't arrive the way we expect. It doesn't follow rules or timelines or appropriate boundaries. It's messy and complicated and requires us to choose courage over comfort. But real love, the kind that transforms us, is always worth the risk. It teaches us that the heart doesn't care about age or circumstances. It only knows truth. And sometimes the most dangerous thing we can do is exactly what we need. Please like, share, and subscribe.